Hello everyone, thanks to a recent LaserDisc pickup from Japan, yet another movie collection is complete. This time it is the amazing parody comedy series Austin Powers. This is the first film on LaserDisc, the Japanese edition with the slightly longer international cut. Love the artwork on this disc. Such a great movie. This is my favorite in the series. It is a funny spoof on particularly 60s and 70s spy films, and definitely takes a lot of influence from the James Bond movies, and it's something that does it lovingly rather than in a mean-spirited fashion, and that's why it really works, is because it takes a love for a certain type of movie and really recognizes some of the more ridiculous aspects of it, and you get to make fun of it in a loving way, and that's why that really works. You know, different parodies or spoof movies that get the idea of you have to love the source material to make the comedy fun and to make it work. You have to be able to see the absurdity in some of the things that you love and just take it to these hilarious levels, and I really think particularly the first two in the series do that, and the first one will always be my favorite. Such a fascinating movie. I remember when I first encountered the series, it was actually a preview for the second movie. I had no idea what Austin Powers was. I had not seen the first movie. I'd never heard of it before, but I was in the movie theaters, and I want to say we were going to see The Matrix. I think it was The Matrix that we were going to see, where the preview was on, and it was a preview that started with, it looked like you're going through the Death Star almost into the Emperor's chamber from Return of the Jedi, and the seat turns around and it's Dr. Evil, and he says, we're expecting someone else. It's just, I haven't seen that trailer since I was in theaters over 2 decades ago, and I still remember. I was like, what the heck is this? And it started, and it seemed really funny, and I was fairly young, so I was with my friend Zach and another friend. I think Rich was also with us, and we had 2 adults with us, my friend Zach's dad and another friend's dad, and they were cracking up and laughing. They had seen the original movie and they were super excited, so I asked them what it was later on. Ended up renting the first one on VHS and laughing out loud, loving it. It's so funny. It's just ridiculous, very, very goofy humor, but it has its heart in the right place, and it makes the goofiness work. It's just such a great movie. First one, I really enjoy. It's definitely my favorite, so I was happy to grab this LaserDisc, because that completes the first movie for me. I also have it on DVD. I got this when it was on sale at Blockbuster, when DVD was fairly new. And it's on a flipper disc, one of those double-sided discs, which I never really liked, but I just wanted a DVD copy back in the day, so I've had this for a long time. And then that one is my favorite. I also grabbed that one on Blu-ray, a different edition. I like this cover. This is really cool. The color scheme really works, and it's just such a funny movie. Elizabeth Hurley is fantastic in it as well. She really does a great job of balancing Mike Myers' character, and he's great as Austin Powers because he's funny, and a lot of the jokes are at his expense, particularly in the first one when he's taken out of the 60s into the 90s, and but at the same time you also feel for his character because the character's taking it seriously. The character considers himself to be a true ladies' man and to be the true gentleman spy, and that makes it all work. If the character becomes self-aware, then it falls apart. But the first one in particular, it's great and it works really, really well. And it's also a fun movie to watch because I grew up primarily in the 90s, and it just, all that 90s vibe and 90s culture I really enjoy. And one of my favorite decades to look back on and experience media from is the 60s. I'd say the 80s, the 60s, and the 20s are probably the older decades that I really enjoy the most. So to see that very goofy dichotomy between him going from the 60s to the 90s, really love that. We get the reverse then, going back in time in the sequel, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, and I got this along with the original when I got them both together from the same Blockbuster, and so I eventually upgraded to a better DVD copy here. So I have the old Blockbuster one I got originally, and then a better New Line Platinum Series red case DVD of the second movie, and it's just such a cool, I love the color schemes of the Austin Powers movies. It just look fantastic. And I really enjoy the sequel. I think it added a lot. It really pulled off a sequel because the first movie is the kind of really funny parody movie that you could see a sequel coming in and just not living up to the original and just really driving the premise into the ground. And the second one I don't like quite as much as the first, but I think it does a good job. I don't think it really makes the joke last too long. I think it adds enough new material to make it better. I think Heather Graham steps in and does a great job. I really enjoyed her in this one. The additional characters worked really well. Mini-Me is one of the most famous characters from the series of Vern Troyer because he's just fantastically funny, does such a great job. And you get the first appearance of Fat Bastard, another Mike Myers character. And the second one, it works. It's such a fantastic continuation that it's great. I really like watching them as a pair. They work fantastically. The one I don't rewatch very frequently, I've actually only seen it probably twice. I have the Infinifilm DVD release of the third movie, Goldmember, and this just has never quite lived up to the first two for me. It has some funny moments. Michael Caine is decent in it. I think Beyonce does her thing. She's Beyonce, but it just never quite lived up to the first two. And I think because of what I was saying earlier, how it feels almost like the characters in the movie are a little too self-aware. They seem to be very aware in that they are in a parody movie. They're very aware they're in an Austin Powers movie. It feels to me like the characters really need to make this comedy work. The characters have to believe they're taking the world seriously. They have to believe they are truly, an evil villain, and not see it as goofy and ridiculous and over the top. And they need to think of themselves as the perfect gentleman spy, as 007, and not understand that they are ridiculous, because then that makes it funny, and also funny in a way that while jokes can be at their expense, you still also feel for the characters and you enjoy them and you like them, and it's not just it's not mean-spirited. And this, to me, it just feels too self-aware. The entire movie feels like it's screaming at you, this is an Austin Powers movie, this is an Austin Powers movie, where the first two are more like, this is a funny parody of older spy movies, particularly James Bond, and go into the joke because you love more serious source material. And this is less of that. This is more just like, remember Austin Powers? Austin Powers is funny, isn't it? Here's Austin Powers. We're watching Austin Powers. More Austin Powers. And it just doesn't work as much for me. It's one that it has a few funny scenes overall, but it never quite lived up to the other two. And since then, I feel like outside of Shrek, Michael Myers has not really done a lot that's really that great comedy-wise. I feel like that's towards the end of things, kind of the joke has gone on too long, because he's done things like The Love Guru and other things that try to have a somewhat similar sense of humor to the Austin Powers movies. It never quite works out. There's been rumors of a fourth Austin Powers movie for over a decade now, and I just don't see it ever actually happening. And even if it does, it's probably not going to be good. I would not have high hopes for that. But yeah, what the series is, though, is good. What was created is fun, and especially the first two I think are fantastic. So that is my Austin Powers collection. They're just funny comedies, pretty silly, pretty ridiculous, but they're ones that I can revisit over and over again over the years and still find them to be funny. I really enjoy the soundtracks, I really enjoy the setup, I really like the performances that everyone gives. They really fit the characters, and I just think that they're great, funny comedies. So that's my Austin Powers collection. We have the Infinifilm and the very short-lasting Infinifilm line from New Line Entertainment of the third movie. And I have two DVDs, old blockbuster, and then a regular release of the second movie, which is still good. But then my absolute favorite I have on DVD, and I believe this is the first release that was on DVD. It was re-released later on DVD. I think it was released with like a greenish cover plastic too. And then the more recent Blu-ray, and my favorite is the one I just got. I have on LaserDisc. So the first Austin Powers movie is just fantastic, and that's the one I usually tend to rewatch more so than the others, and frequently I will rewatch it maybe with the second one, often not the third. I do want to rewatch it again at some point, but it just doesn't quite live up to the other ones. The joke is getting stale at that point. But yeah, Austin Powers, hilarious series. And I have one other just random thing of Austin Powers that we happen to find, and it's whatever. It is what it is. There have been a handful of truly terrible Austin Powers themed video games over the years. I happened to run into one of them years ago for like $1 at a thrift store and happened to keep it because it's not worth reselling. It's not worth anything. And it's pretty terrible. But it was just funny as kind of like a joke game thing. It was fun to play for an hour or two. Austin Powers Pinball for the PS1. It's really not a great pinball game, and there are only 2 tables, and it's funny if you like the movies. You can get a little bit of enjoyment out of it, but yeah, for $1 or $2 when I got it, I got a few hours of enjoyment from it, and it's the occasional joke to bring out when you have a friend over or someone who really likes Austin Powers. I'll have to show this to my brother someday. I know he really likes those movies. I don't think I showed this to him, but yeah, Austin Powers Pinball is the last piece of my Austin Powers collection for the PS1.